All right, we're going to start our next unit, and we are in Unit H. We're getting ready to start Unit H. And Unit H deals with one of my favorite topics, which is 3D geometry. So most people, when they think of geometry, they think of shapes. So now we're going to get into some of those shapes and really looking at how to draw the shapes and how we can represent the shapes by different drawings, but also finding area of surface area and volume of those shapes. So we're going to start here on page 101 or 111. And we'll kind of do some groundwork here. So page 111, we're going to start with Unit H. And Unit H deals with 3D geometry. So everything we've been dealing with now has been two-dimensional mainly. We started with points, which was 0 dimensions. Then we moved to segments and lines, which are 1 dimension. And then we moved to some of the basic shapes of triangles and the polygons, which is 2-dimensional, and now we're moving in to the 3-dimensional. So on page 112, we're going to have our learning targets. Okay, and there are 3 learning targets for Unit H. And the first one is H.1. And this says I can represent, I can use a variety of models to represent .3D figures. Okay, and there are about 3 or 4 different models that we're going to look at to represent some 3D figures. Okay, the second one, H.2, we're going to spend quite a bit of time on, and that is I can calculate the surface area of a 3D shape using a variety of models. Okay, so we're going to look at some very specific type of 3D shapes, and then we're just going to go with some general, more advanced 3-dimensional shapes that you might not see in everyday life. Okay, so kind of along with H.2, we have which is surface area. We'll kind of underline surface area there. Surface area up here. We're kind of just drawing up here. And then H.3 is I can calculate the volume of a 3D shape using a variety of models. Okay. Again, this one's dealing with volume only. And we'll intermix actually H2 and H3 with shapes, with different shapes. So we'll do maybe a pyramid, and then we're going to look at the surface area and volume of that pyramid. Okay. So there are some things I want to remind you of that you should already know prior to this unit. So items, you should know. Okay, so these are things that maybe I've gone over in class or that you should have had in a previous math class. All right, so number one is area of a triangle. Okay, and an area of a triangle would be base times height divided by 2. The next thing would be area of a circle. And area of a circle would be pi r squared. And r in this case is the radius. If you're going to use pi, we'll put this over here. So pi is about 3.14159. So if you are not using the pi button in the calculator, you need to use this large number right here. Okay, I don't want you just using 3.14 because that doesn't allow, it rounds it too much. Okay, this 159 are some significant values as well. So we have area of a circle. We just talked about area of polygons, so I'll add that on here. Because we will be looking at some of those polygons again, which was in the number of sides times the triangle that was in the side. So you got base times height divided by 2. And the height we called the apothem. So if you wanted to put an A there, you certainly could. And the last thing is the circumference or the perimeter of a circle. So circumference of circle. And the circumference of a circle is 2 pi r. Okay, again, using the 3.14159 for that pi number. Okay, so those are our learning targets and some pre-knowledge that you need to have. We're going to go ahead and look at page 113, and we want to start here with drawing. Now, drawing three-dimensional figures can be tricky. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a couple lessons on drawing. And for this one, we're going to look at very simple two-dimensional shapes, which we have drawn before, and some three-dimensional shapes. Okay, so here we're going to have drawing 101. Okay, drawing 101. And like I said, in this one, we're focusing on 2D shapes. And several of these 2D shapes will be very easy for you, as they should, because we have drawn them before. So let's start with a simple square. I encourage you to use the grid on your graph paper to kind of help you. So we have a square. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I went 5 down, so we're going to go 5 across. Okay, so we have our square. Right, and we don't have to label them all, but the next one we're going to do is a right triangle, and it doesn't really matter what kind of triangle it is other than right. And remember, all sides have to be segmented. Okay, so there's our right triangle. Next is an equilateral triangle. Remember, all sides are the same. Okay, so we want to really try to hone in that all sides are exactly the same. Okay, don't just draw a triangle like that and call it equilateral. We're really trying to focus in on some of these shapes. Okay, we've got we'll have an isosceles triangle where two sides are the same. This could also be an obtuse triangle. And it's clear that two sides there are the same. A circle, nice easy object here. Make sure that it is a circle, and we have the radius here. I'll go ahead and label that R. Don't draw an oval, okay, or an ellipse. We want a nice looking circle. All right, how about a trapezoid? We've got two kinds of trapezoids. Here's one trapezoid. Okay, and then we have an isosceles trapezoid. Like such. Now, after these, things can get a little bit tricky. So we've got three-sided and four-sided shapes. We could put a rectangle on there. That's the one I left off. These are kind of shapes that we've gone over. A kite. Some of you have gotten well at the kite. Okay, so there's my kite. So after, oh, we've got a circle. Let's go ahead and do a half circle or a semicircle. So I like to draw this, and then the radius here will be the same. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 across. So 4 would be the halfway point. So I know the peak has to go up 4. So we're gonna imagine here that it just arcs out perfectly. Okay, and try to get as perfect as you can with these shapes. You could do a quarter circle. Little pie shape there, and sometimes you'll have that. Okay, and after these shapes, then we're going to go on to some of the more advanced polygons, okay, such as a pentagon, which a pentagon is a 5-sided shape. And we're going to look at regular polygons. So if I say draw a regular pentagon or a pentagon, we want 5 sides that are the same. And these grids may not be as helpful, and do your best. If you want to use a pencil, you can before you do it in marker, but just do your best here. A pentagon has 5 sides. So it's almost like a house, but the sides of the house are kind of slanted instead of straight up and down to make it a regular pentagon. Okay, we'll do a hexagon, which is 6 sides. So similar, okay, we're going to make all the sides the same length. And I messed up just a little bit, okay, but that's okay. We're just looking to do our best here. And then the 7-sided polygon is the one I have the most trouble with. 7 and 9, those odd numbers are kind of hard because there's really it's really hard to make it symmetrical. Like we can make it symmetrical through there, but like this one I can make it symmetrical through 2 vertices. But with 7 and 9 sided shapes, it's very hard to do. And we don't usually draw a 9-sided or more pentagon or polygon. We usually just go up to an octagon and stop after that. So there was 6-sided, so 7-sided. Okay, something like that. Again, it's not perfect because my angles aren't the same, but we get the idea. And from this, you know, we can look at the center and then we can look at those embedded triangles that we would need for area and perimeter, or for area. I messed those up. Okay. So there's 7 now, 8-sided polygon. Again, kind of messed it up just a little bit. Okay, there's our octagon, and we're gonna stop right there for those. So these are kind of the shapes that we're gonna need to be able to draw. And then even later on, we're gonna combine some of these shapes into bigger shapes or combinations of these shapes, okay? So let's go ahead and go to page 115. That was drawing 101. And now we're going to look at drawing 102, which drawing 102, we're looking at some common 3-dimensional shapes. Okay, so this is drawing 102. And the focus here are 3D shapes. Okay. Whoop, drawing some 3D shapes. Okay, so the first shape is hopefully the easiest one, and that is a cube. So a cube is like a square, but it's 3-dimensional and all sides are the same. Now, the one thing I want to say with drawing 3D shapes is you can do them a couple different ways, but when sides or faces are supposed to overlap or cover something up, you can either leave the line off or you can make it dotted, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So here, if I want to draw a cube, I'm going to start with a square. And there's many different ways we can draw this. Okay, so I've got my square, and then I'm going to go to kind of back and diagonal. And again, I'm using this grid to kind of help me. So I'm kind of going up 2 and right 3. So up 2, right 3, I can put a dot there. That way I know where I'm going. So up 2, right 3, I know where I'm going. And then I connect those lines. Now, all the other sides should be blocked in this view. So I don't have to put them, but personally, I like to put dotted lines there instead. So that back point would be right there. So I could put a dotted line there. And then this edge would come down, and then this edge would come across. So you can see the kind of the back side of this shape. So this is a cube. All sides are the same, whatever they may be. The next easiest one would be a sphere. So in drawing a sphere, we'll start with a plane circle. As best as you can. Now, a sphere or a ball is made up just of a bunch of different circles all around it. Okay, so we have our main circle. And then, so if we're trying to draw the globe or something like that, or artists use this in drawing faces, they just may use an oval instead of a circle. Then we're going to add what might be known as the equator. So we'll kind of draw a little arc here. And again, let's say I don't want to put the back side, so that would be the front side. And then we might have this circle coming here. So that kind of helps you see that it's a ball. And this one's a little bit hard. My circle's not perfect, and you can tell right here. But again, I like to put the back side of it just to give it a little bit more depth. Okay, and you can kind of see that adds kind of the back side of it. So we get a little bit more dimension with it. Okay. All right, so now we are actually going to go into some of the shapes that we will see. So the next thing we're going to look at is a triangular prism. So it has a triangle in it. So we're just going to draw maybe a equilateral triangle or something here. Could have done a right triangle, it doesn't matter. Okay, and the word prism just means that you're taking this shape and you're going to elongate it into space. So we have this shape and we're just going to kind of extrude it out. So I'm just going to, like I did here, this is actually could be considered a square prism. Here we're just going to kind of go out some distance with that top. Now, whatever distance I went there, I have to go down here as well. Okay, the slopes need to be the same. Again, we can use these lines and everything to help us out. These are all parallel. So this is parallel to this, and these two are also parallel. And everything else would be blocked. Okay, so we'll draw some dotted lines here to help us out. And then this dotted line here. Okay, so we have vertices. Vertices are where all the segments meet. We have edges, which are the segments. And then we have faces, which are the flat surfaces on each side. And with a sphere or hemisphere, they don't actually have those. It's all the flat surfaces. So let's draw a hemisphere since I just brought that up. So a hemisphere would be half of the sphere. So we're first going to just start with kind of an arch here. Well, I'll start here. We're going to draw a little bit of an oval here. And the back side would be blocked. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to delete all of this stuff down here. And then we have our arch over top. And then if you wanted, you could leave it there, or if you wanted, you could draw this portion as well. Okay, so that would be our hemisphere. And if we wanted to go to a quarter of it, we could definitely do that. So I'm just trying to delete this stuff right here. So if I want to start here, notice how it's curved right there. So I'd start here and kind of curve it up and then dot it down. Okay. And then here I kind of went too far, but here we'd curve it around and dot it. And then this would be curved right there. And then this is dotted here. So that one's a little bit hard to see. But it is this portion deleted a little bit. They were a little too curved there. Okay, so the next thing may be a cone. Okay, a cone, like an ice cream cone. Some people draw them where the circle's on top or the circle's on bottom. It doesn't matter. I like to put my circle on top. So we draw kind of that ellipse or ellipse there, and then we come down to the center. The reason I like to draw it like that is if you draw it the other way, one of these sides is going to have to be dotted because it will be blocked by the actual body of the cone. A cylinder, which is where you'll see that it has to be blocked. We're going to draw our ellipse on top. Take two vertical lines coming down. Okay, the same distance. This front one needs to match the curve of that. And then the back is dotted to match the curve of that top one. Okay, so like a tuna can in this case, or any kind of can is that cylinder. We have a pyramid. And we can have many types of pyramids, just like we can have many types of prisms. So the first one I'm going to draw is a square pyramid.
At this time, all odd classes are dismissed. All odd classes dismissed. Thank you.
So let me pause the recording between these classes here. All right, we're going to finish up this drawing 102, which is 3D. So we've got our cone, our cylinder here, and we were getting ready to do some pyramids. And so this pyramid, we're going to start with a square pyramid. So I just like to draw a triangle, kind of a steep one here. And this would be the front face. And with a square, it's going to have a square on the bottom. So we're going to kind of draw this line here. And then everything else would be dotted down here. Okay, this is more or less a rectangular pyramid. And this would be solid. And then this one here would be dotted. Okay, and actually this point should be right in the center of this. Which it's off just a little bit, but it's hard to kind of tell. And so then we can also draw all the pyramids with that concept. So if I draw a triangle first, so we'll draw this base here, and we want this peak to be off center just a little bit. So there and there, and we're going to make this one a triangular prism, which means it will be a triangle in the back. So we'll kind of draw this dot here, and everything in this is dotted. So there's your triangular prism. Or sorry, your triangular pyramid. Okay, so we've got kind of the prisms here, and we can draw other shapes on that as well. We do let's do a right triangle prism. So if I have this right triangle here. Okay, there's my right angle. And we're going to make it a prism. So we're just going to go out a little bit. So that was up 1, right 3, up 1, right 3 right there. So it's a nice short little prism. Okay, and then everything else is dotted. Okay, and then there's your right triangle prism, and we could have hexagons and octagons and all sorts of stuff. And then we have a cylinder, which a cylinder will always be circular. We talked about some pyramids, and we could have a pentagon pyramid or anything like that. We've got cones, which cones are always circular on the bottom, and we have our spheres and hemispheres and the quarter sphere. Okay, so these are the main 3D shapes that you will be drawing. The other thing we can do is maybe put some of those 3D shapes together. So maybe if I put a cone and this hemisphere together, then I have what we could consider an ice cream cone, and then we can find surface area and volume of that. But these are the basic 3D and 2D shapes. So we're going to stop there, and you can kind of practice drawing some of these. And in the next lesson, we'll look at a little bit more drawing and looking at some different drawings of shapes. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next lesson.